Bardcore. It's a concept that's been around for ages, but when was the last time you saw someone rocking that look in the grocery store? I don't know about you, but I have been lusting after a ruff for ages and just haven't had the need or the time to make one. So imagine my astonishment a couple of months ago when I sat down to watch a Bernadette Banner video, as one does, and heard this.
I am still waiting for the unironic return of the fashionable ruff, though.
Clearly, I am not the only person who thinks about ruffs way more than the Roman Empire. But Jackie, I'm sure you're saying, ruffs are a big look. It would take someone totally brazen to pull something like that off. Someone ostentatious, someone arguably crazy to take Bernadette's torch and light it into existence. Challenge accepted. I mean, who the heck else would do it? Ruffs are almost as on brand for me as puffy sleeves, so much so that they were probably going to write, "She should have worn bardcore on my grave." So how to go about it? The key word here is unironic. We don't want to give ruffs the hipster treatment. We don't want to treat this like anti-fashion. Oh no, we want ruffs to come back for the sheer joy of them being ruffs. If any blanket statement has or could be made about style, it's that it's cyclical. And whatever goes out of style is doomed to come back into style. Tattoo chokers, I'm looking at you. Ruffs are no exception. They started out as simple bands in the time of Henry VIII and stayed relatively small until they exploded in the 1570s. From there, it was dinner plates for neckwear for the next 30 years or so, where they hung about in that awkward period of time that was the early 17th century, before they lost their stiffness and floated back down to the shoulders as collars. Things stayed relatively horizontal until the advent of our favorite and bestest history bounders, the Regency folks. My chemisette, this chemisette, totally the folks of the Regency era taking ruffs and adapting them to suit their particular tastes. And that's what our goal is here. Not so much creating a perfectly historically adequate ruff, but making them palatable to a modern taste. So as much as I really want to become a human Dilophosaurus, I think the giant dinner plate ruffs are out. You and I both know the world is not ready for that yet. Instead, we're looking for more of the ruff of least resistance. Something that is cheap, easy, and fast to make. Something that goes on and off without much fuss, and that can adapt to various modern necklines. And most importantly, it needs to be comfortable. We live in the age of the athleisure wear. If it's not comfortable, nobody's gonna wear it, including yours truly. To wear the ruffs, first we gotta make the ruffs. I didn't know what was going to be the easiest or the most flattering, so I decided to test things out a little. I used ElizabethanCostume.net as a reference for my ruffial escapades because it's a free resource. I started with the early period ruff tutorial. First, we gotta figure out how much yardage we need. Take a tape measure and measure around your neck. For me, that's 14 inches. Then multiply your measurement by 5 and add an additional 2 inches for seam allowance. This number is how long you need your ribbon to be. Get it? Got it? Good. Now get yourself some 2-inch poly grosgrain ribbon. This I got from Joann's with a coupon for a whopping $3. Yes, poly grosgrain. Don't clutch your pearls at me. Measure out the length that you calculated in the above step and cut. I recommend using a gridded quilting ruler for ruff making. Measure up a 1/2 inch from the edge of one side of the ribbon. Starting 1/2 inch away from the edge, begin making a dot every 3/4 of an inch along the length of the ribbon. Thread a needle with a long thread. Not that long, Jackie. Then pick up a few threads at each of the next 4 dots. It says to gather these together like you see here, but I found that physically forming them into pleats first and then pulling the thread tight created a neater look. Once they're neatly gathered, stitch through the pleats a couple of times to secure. Then do a running stitch to the next dot, and again do 1 stitch to secure your thread. Repeat until everything is gathered. Now we need to flatten the box pleats. For each set of gathered pleats, push 2 of them to each side and pin them down. Make sure they're neat and even. Here it is again. Once they're all pinned down, secure the pleats by sewing a 1/2 inch from the edge of the ribbon. I used the machine for this. It was mildly precarious. Then sandwich the ruff between 2 pieces of 2-inch fabric the length of your ruff plus seam allowances, with the raw edges meeting the edge of the ribbon. Sew this plus the short edges of the ruff. Then turn it out. The beauty of using poly grosgrain is that it's stiff enough that you don't have to faff about with starch and you don't have to do any extra hemming. Turn under the raw edge and sew it down. Add some ties if you like, or not if you don't. Alright, I was kind of wondering whether I was going to end up looking like a total psychopath, but y'all, it's so cute! I definitely think that it's more comfortable wearing it open than wearing it closed, so I'll probably wear it more just pinned into my neckline, but I'm really happy with this. I'm super excited. Ruff number 2 is going to be longer and taller. I started by sewing together some fine linen strips in decreasing heights, and then graded down the height changes. Since this was fabric and not ribbon, I then did a rolled hem on one side. And for those of you who clicked on this expecting Bernadette content but haven't been able to turn away from this train wreck, rest assured, I can and do enjoy spending hours and hours hand sewing yards of delicate, historically adequate fabric. It's just sometimes you want commitment, and sometimes you want somebody who puts out before you have to buy them dinner. Sorry, Mom and Dad. With that done, I needed to make a decision. To starch or not to starch, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of floppy linen, or to take arms against a sea of grandmas and by opposing, smell like them. All right, give it to me. Yorick! This is the starch I use. It really does smell like grandma's. Once it was stiff, I continued the same as the first ruff, only spaced my pleats 1/2 inch apart instead of 3/4 and gathered 6 sections together instead of 4. This one was a pain to make. It was really tedious. If you're gonna make those 1/2 inch pleats, be warned, it takes forever and it's way too long. It's cute though. Okay, it wouldn't be Fantastical Follies if we didn't do at least one ridiculously over-the-top ruff. This one was for a specific event that happened on February 10th, but I also wanted to make this for my Rococo Queen of Hearts cosplay that I made last fall before I ran out of time. This is some poly lace from my stash. Not an ideal fabric for this project, but it's what I had on hand. This one of all the 3 has an actual deadline, so I decided to embroider on the machine using a blanket stitch. It took so long, I had to eat lunch at the same time. Also, it doesn't look that neat or great, but oh well. Poly lace won't work with starch, so I took Margot Anderson's advice and batched up a 1-to-1 water to white glue solution. This was gross and sticky. And it didn't dry clear at all. Rage! Okay, a quick couple of rinses and a squeeze and we're back in business. This ruff's going up the same as the second, only I'm opting for the 3/4 of an inch distance instead of the 1/2. I tried pleating it first, like you see here, but it ended up kind of messy. I also ended up sticking 3 wires in the back to help keep it upright since it was so tall. I sewed the ends of the wire to the seam allowances between the sandwiched neckband. With that, it was time for the fun part, wearing them. But how to gauge whether or not I've made an impact? I've set myself up a scoring system. The goal, to get as many points as possible. I'm awarding myself points for the following. 1 point every time someone compliments my outfit. 1 point every time someone asks about my ruff with interest. 1 point every time someone asks me where I got my ruff. 2 points every time someone comments about wanting to wear one too. And I'm docking points for the following. -1 point every time someone asks me if I'm in a play. -1 point every time someone tells me I look weird. And -1 point every time someone looks at me like I have 2 heads. That's if the look is directly related to the ruff and not because, you know, I'm being me, which happens a lot if I'm honest. As I figure out some outfits, I do want to say that I recognize that one woman does not make a trend. And that's where you come in. Because when someone brings cookies into the office, everyone wants a cookie, but nobody wants to be the first one to open the box. I polled you over on Instagram, I polled you here on YouTube, and the general consensus everywhere was that everyone wants a ruff, but nobody has a reason to have one yet. Nobody wants to open the box of cookies. So think of me as your psychotic and food-motivated coworker who is brave enough to take that first snickerdoodle. All that's left to do now is tell everyone that the box has been opened. You can even buy them at Temu. Aren't you aching for a medieval court Victoria Gothic ribbon ruffle collar retro? So this is my call to action for you today. Make a ruff. It can be the most historically accurate ruff you can make, or it could even be a piece of paper you've accordioned together in 90 seconds. Snap a picture of yourself in your ruff doing something in public. At work, at the gym, picking up your dinner, even sitting with your family watching TV. Then post it on Instagram using the hashtag #BringingRuffyBack. If you don't like the attention that wearing a ruff will bring you, maybe share this video with someone you think might want to take a cookie instead. The more eyes we have on this, the more folks will want to play along, and the more likely we are to succeed in bringing ruffs back into style. I did learn some things in the weeks that I did this experiment. Firstly, the ruffs look more natural and fit better on tops that already have high necks, or if they're attached to jackets or something similar with a structured collar already intact. Pinning them to flimsy, low-cut necklines wasn't as successful, and wearing them in those situations got a little annoying. I definitely think my favorite looks were when the ruffs were pinned onto my jackets. My linen ruff was a total failure. It was not fun to make and just was too long and awkward to fit onto any of my necklines. I do intend to take it apart and redo it with larger pleats. And I think the key to that one is going to be to put it onto a partlet similar to how a chemisette is structured, so I can actually wear it with my sundresses, which was my intended purpose for that particular ruff. I'd actually hoped to try that for this video, but time and the weather got in the way, of course it did. But I'm not done with this and have some very fun looks to share for warmer weather, so don't forget to follow me on Instagram as well as the hashtag if you're interested in seeing what I can come up with. By far, my favorite one to wear was this one, the grosgrain ribbon one. If you join in the ruff wearing, and I really hope you do, this one was so fast to make and so easy to pin onto my clothing. It looks great, and I never once had an issue with it being floppy or sad like the other two. I do suggest putting a mark on the collar in the center back for ease of pinning. All in all, I was astounded by the positive feedback I got while doing this experiment. I was expecting at least one person to ask if I was in a play, but everyone was overwhelmingly positive. The interest in these things is there. And while wearing a ruff will absolutely get you attention, I don't think it gets you any more attention than wearing any other historical clothing in everyday life. It's all about going outside knowing you look cute. That gives you an air of confidence that nobody will question, whether you're actually confident or not. So go ahead, take that snickerdoodle out of the box and let's start a ruff revolution. And make sure we don't live or die with fashion regrets. That's it for me today. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.